Hello and welcome back after a long break to Down the Track. I have with me as usual my co-host Abrar Aziz. Long time, brother. How are you doing?
Good, sir. Yeah, indeed, it's been a very long time.
How was your vacation?
Vacation was amazing. How was yours?
It was good. It was good. But now back to the cricket. I have a very interesting fact. For every 9 sheep in New Zealand, there is one human being. And whereas us in India have billion people. So how did we lose in the semi-final?
How are we losing semifinals? You still seem salty about that. It's been a long time.
Yeah. Speaking of New Zealand, that's always been the bogey team for India, and this is a big test series coming up.
Yep.
Part of the World Test Championship, so there's points on the line, and I think this is India's first real test in the Test Championship. First real challenge, considering the conditions and the opposition. So, what are your initial thoughts previewing this series, and what matchups are you looking forward to?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, this is a completely different challenge. The New Zealand tour is has always in the past also proven very tricky for India, and I'm really looking forward to this test because, like we've been discussing for almost a year now, this is really the challenge that we need to see how India performs in this series to really see if they are the number one contenders like they've been like bringing themselves up to, so it's very interesting to see how it goes. But for me, most importantly, I think missing Wagner in that first test will be huge for New Zealand, and I think very lucky for India because he can be a real threat, especially considering our openers are relatively new to the stage, and for them to kind of have to deal with Wagner early on would have been a little difficult. But it'll be interesting to see. It's something that I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, I think, like you said, the inexperience in the opening pair for both Mayank Agarwal and Prithvi Shaw haven't played much together, and even Prithvi Shaw has hardly played, I think, any games apart from a home series. So it'll be interesting how they tackle. You mentioned Wagner has been probably New Zealand's best bowler over this Australian New Zealand summer.
Yeah.
He's got Smith out quite a few times as well.
Yeah.
But replacing him is Matt Henry, and we saw what he did in the World Cup and
Absolutely.
against India. And one more thing is the conditions. So if one interesting thing about New Zealand is if you look at it in the last 3-4 years, the first innings is actually where the wickets fall, and then as the Test match progresses, it gets better for batting. So if India are put in first innings, it could be dangerous signs.
Absolutely. But I still think that Matt Henry. I'll have to see how good he actually turns out to be with the red ball because he's a more proven white ball cricketer from the looks of it, from what we've seen of him. But Wagner will be a miss. But yeah, definitely, I think win the toss and bowl first is probably the best way to go, considering history in New Zealand has been the first day is always very hard to deal with, and once it kind of like some cricket's played on it, it gets a lot easier and a lot more comfortable to bat on. So that's definitely going to be probably something to look at for both the captains. Yeah, looking interesting.
How much pressure do you think there will be on Virat Kohli and Pujara, considering that they have a couple of inexperienced young openers ahead of them, and if they come in for like 10 for 2, 15 for 2, how do you think they'll tackle that situation?
That is the most critical part of this whole tournament because of this whole series. I think because our bowling is good. Like I think with Ishant coming back, I think we're might or might not come back yet, but he looked in at ease apparently while he was training yesterday. So he might or might not come back. But that's the only challenge the only main challenge as to how Pujara, Kohli, and Rahane will handle and get those big runs on the board that are needed for us. And it remains to be seen, but definitely they'll have to like really stick it out and make sure that they take all the pressure of making those big runs in case Mayank and Prithvi fail.
And what one thing we've seen with India overseas, especially in the last maybe 8 years, the spinners haven't performed as we would like them to. Who would you go with initially, Ashwin or Jadeja?
Oh, absolutely, Ash all day for me because
Yeah.
yeah, definitely. I mean, with due respect to Jaddu, he's been a great player for us in all three formats, but I think Ash gives you a little bit more. Uh, uh, just and I think it's down to a personal preference, and he gives you a little bit more uh, in terms of just his variations and how he kind of reads the batsman mind and everything. It just feels that he will be a little bit more suited, at least for the first test for me.
Also, considering the fact he hasn't played in a while.
Yeah, but I still think that he has enough experience to come out and produce a good, in my opinion at least.
Yeah, and
what do you think? Do you think Jaddu more likely?
I think Jadeja is more likely to play, but even I would go with Ashwin because he's the traditional off spinner. To be honest, he has disappointed me in a few tours. Like he got injured in England. Was it? It was one of the away tours. I think it was England where he should have taken a lot of wickets. Moeen Ali took like 10 wickets or something, and Ashwin was not fully fit, and he just couldn't get the ball to turn on a turning pitch. So I've just been a bit upset with him in overseas conditions, but at home, he's unbelievable. But I think that's the time. I think he's also probably eager to shine now because he hasn't played much international cricket. So if he gets the opportunity, I'm sure he'll make the most of it. So Ashwin is probably is a safer bet, but I think they'll go with Jadeja just because he's played recently and he's in the team.
Yeah, and if Kohli's selection techniques are if you're going to go by that, but then definitely Jaddu's playing the test match. But I would still want to see Ashwin. We'll see.
Yeah, and New Zealand's batting order. Again, do you think they'll be heavily reliant on Williamson and Taylor? And do you see the other batsmen chipping in like Latham and the others?
I think Latham's had a good season so far. I think he's been performing consistently, and of course the likes of Williamson and Taylor are always a good bet.
They also have Watling. He chips in quite a bit against England.
He always chips in. Yeah, he's there. He's a good find for them as well. I think their batting is not a big concern per se. They've started to have these people kind of come in and chip in so that they don't have all that pressure off of Latham and off of Taylor and Williamson. But they just have to come out there and put a performance, and that's something that I'm looking forward to seeing against Indian bowlers who've been very strong lately, the likes of Shami and Bumrah and Ishant and or Umesh Yadav, whoever it is on the day. They've actually been very, very potent and very difficult to face for a lot of good batsmen, for a lot of good teams as well. So that is a challenge that will be interesting to see.
See, now my question now is basically like you mentioned just right now that the bowling looks amazing. It looks solid. They've actually proven themselves. In South Africa, they took 10 wickets in almost every game. So they did that in England. They did that again in Australia. But out of those 3 series, they lost 2. And then you could say the Australia one, they won. There was no Smith and Warner. With them, it would have been a different series altogether. That is clear. After we saw what Smith did in the Ashes, that's clear. It would have been a different series altogether. So,
absolutely.
There's 2 things I wanted to ask you. One thing is, do you think that this batting order, can they survive in tough conditions, especially if the ball starts to nip around? And or would we just crash to 100 all out? And secondly, I wanted to ask, actually go with this question and then I'll ask you the second question.
I mean, historically, we are known to be very, very iffy against balls that nip around, and it's gonna be a big challenge. But if the practice match is anything to go by, I think the Pujara scored some decent runs, and Vihari got 100. So, and Kohli obviously is Kohli. This is the biggest test, like we've been discussing for a long time now, but they will really have to stand up and get those runs if they are really to for us to not start asking questions unnecessarily, because that's going to happen if they don't perform in these 2 tests. And if we lose because of our batting again, because of we've had that issue in the past, and if we continue to do that, some serious questions will need to be asked, and the players will need to really take a strong look at themselves, hard look at themselves.
It'll be a kind of like confusing, like double-edged sword kind of thing, because the ground is really small in New Zealand. But at the same time, the ball's going to be nipping around. So, like between attack and defense, they have to be very particular and very careful what shot they play and not play. Sometimes you can be tempted, like, when you're in your shell and you just want to break the shackles, you just go for that shot, but that can just get the edge and get you out. So you have to be very careful, because you shouldn't let the small grounds deceive you as a batsman. Because I've seen like the likes of Rahul, Rohit Sharma in the test game, they just lose their patience and go for that big wild swing, whether it's in South Africa Africa or in England or Australia, and they just lose their wicket. So it's very important that they don't get carried away with those small grounds.
And that's exactly what the inexperience of Agarwal and Prithvi Shaw can tell, and could really put India in a difficult situation with Pujara and Kohli coming in early.
Yeah.
But having said that, the experience of a Pujara and a Kohli and Rahane should really be able to get past that and really make those runs. And I think Vihari is also there out there to kind of really make the most of the few chances that he gets. So.
Yeah.
So these four batsmen will have to really take the onus if the top order fails.
Yeah, and Vihari and Pujara both had good practice games, so they look in good form.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's good news. So it just depends on the only thing is, like we said, if the openers get out, then it just puts that added pressure. But if they get like a 50, you think a 50 plus stand is more than enough for the likes of Pujara and Kohli?
For a good start, yes. Anything of like a 50, like even 100, like it'll be great to see the 100-run partnership. But like just so till the ball kind of just gets a little bit older and a little bit softer, so that these guys have enough time to come in and set themselves up before the new ball is available. So that's something that they definitely like. I mean, the most important task of a new ball of a new opening batsman in Test cricket is to negate the new ball, and then the runs will automatically come after that. So it'll be interesting to see, because Agarwal obviously has been playing with Rohit Sharma, but Prithvi Shaw is probably is knocking on those doors for that opening slot. So it's a good opportunity for him to make the most of it. Let's see how that goes. But I just feel like there's something with Prithvi Shaw when he bats. Like there's just a feeling of him like just like getting. Trying to play the big shot and getting out. I've just seen that way too many times, and I want to see how he tackles that.
Yeah, it'll be very interesting. He looks like a Virender Sehwag type of player, but hopefully,
absolutely.
Hopefully, he just sorts out his shot selection, and he has the talent for sure.
He definitely has immense amount of talent. He just needs to be a little bit more patient, and the results will come.
Yeah, and the second point I really want to ask you is like everybody has been praising the Indian bowling unit, which is they deserve it. Like they're picking up wickets and everything. But there's one criticism that I do have of the bowling unit. We've seen it in South Africa, we've seen it in England, and Australia. It happened in the first test also. I remember they don't wipe the tail off. I mean, they don't finish, like when they have the opposition 90 for 6, Sam Curran comes and scores 100 or like a 80 or 90. And I think that's the main reason we lost the England series. I know that it's very harsh and the batsmen didn't perform. If they contributed, we could have won and all that. But I think the finishing of the tail is very crucial, especially when you have them like, at a position 90 for 6, 90 for 7. Then you get like someone like Saudi coming scoring in 80. That just frustrates your opposition, demoralizes you as a team.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that if you look really hard about this bowling attack, that's the only thing that we will find, obviously. And it's happened a couple of times, so that's why it's becoming somewhat of a talking point.
Why do you think that's the case? Sorry to cut you out, but is it because of the balls getting older, or do they just putting they put so much energy in the first few overs that they're just running out of gas?
Honestly, it's very hard to tell. I think they might be running out of gas, but like we know second inning Shami. I don't know why he can't be a first inning Shami, because second inning Shami is amazing. He like cleans out the tail quickly and everything. But I'm finding it hard to believe that they're running out of steam. I mean, although it could very well be the case, because India usually goes in with only 4 frontline bowlers and they really don't have a fifth bowling choice, except for Vihari, who might bowl a few overs when he comes in. But then probably like bowling 80 overs in a day, that approximately is about 20 overs each player, depending if the spinners bowl a little bit more, obviously, then the faster bowler gets a few overs lesser. But that could be the case for them not being able to clean out the seam, because they really are tired by the end of the day. But I also think that our fast bowlers have been doing very well. So it will be up to Ash and Jaddu to kind of chip in with those couple wickets so that they can really kind of clean out the tail. But I think if we go to look at it as a team performance, I think of all the 4 bowlers, the spinners have always been the guys who are really creating those wickets for us. So maybe that's a case, or maybe it is them just losing some energy towards the end of the innings, where when they've really worked hard in the beginning part of it. It's hard to tell, but it is something that I'm sure they're aware of, and they'll probably be looking into seeing how they can try and improve it, and maybe give a stint of about 7 to 8 overs to Vihari. I mean, like when it's a little bit on one side at least, like that way you give a little bit more rest to one of the other players so that they can come all guns blazing with the new ball available after the 80th over, so that they can really clean it out or whatever they need to do at the time.
The only downside of that is that the bats
It'll help
the
get
batsman
bats and settle down.
he'll get his eye in, and New Zealand do have a good lower order. They have Santner, they
Absolutely.
have Watling.
Absolutely.
Wagner is not there, but he can bat a bit.
Colin DeGram will also play, right? He'll play at number 6.
And he can bowl as
he's
well.
in good
so
form. That's the thing. That's the big problem that I think that the fifth bowler option is probably the only concern for them.
So that's the thing, right? So the main problem I have is that we don't wipe the tail, but our tail gets wiped off. The Indian tail gets wiped off very quickly, right? And and the fact that, like you said, which is a very important note, that they have de Grantham, they have a fifth bowling option. It'll be easier for them regardless of India's batting talent in the lower order.
And after number 6, it's hard because Saha, like, I mean, we haven't really seen him score those big runs, even though he's capable, we know, but we haven't really seen him score those big runs. And I think he's definitely our number 1 wicketkeeper. I don't think they're going with the Rishabh Pant, so he's probably going to be there. So, like, from 7 through 11, I think it's pretty much really quickly everyone kind of goes in. Ashwin also, we know, is capable, but we've not really seen him score those runs.
I think that's the only place where India can lose the series, and they might even lose it 2-0 if that happens. I'm saying, if the lower order collapses and the other New Zealand lower order chips in, then I think that's where India can lose the series. So it's very important to see how they clean up the tail.
Absolutely. That's definitely a very valid point of concern for the Indian team. So it'll be interesting to see how they go about doing.
And you touched upon Saha. I think he will definitely be the first choice wicketkeepers because they'll go with the keeping skills first, especially in difficult conditions. But if he doesn't perform, would you in the second test bring in Pant straight away?
Honestly,
just
I don't know
as a batting option. That's
right.
it.
That's the thing. I don't know if Pant is giving you that batting option, because Pant, if there's anyone who's as rash in difficult conditions, I mean, we know Pant being pretty brash with his batting, like going after a loosener or whatever, like going after a ball which is not really to go after or something. So maybe not, because Saha is giving you immense quality behind the stumps, especially on day 4 or 5 when it's really going to be nipping around and when you really need someone there to like handling. So probably I think these 2 tests I'm still going to go with Saha, even if he doesn't perform with the bat per se, because I don't have that kind of confidence in Pant to be able to say that, okay, he's going to bring me 100 when I need it. Probably not going to happen. So that's my issue with him. Being sloppy behind the wickets after that on a day 4 or 5 will not be helpful at it.
I think that's why I definitely go with Saha because of the keeping. But if you look at the batting point of view, with Rishabh Pant, if you look at very closely, one day T20, he's really disappointed India. I mean, in the sense that he's gotten so many chances, he's just not grabbed it. It could be pressure, it could be mental strength, it could be anything. But I just think even now as a test wicket-keeping batsman, he's a good option because the field is in New Zealand, the ground is small. So especially if it's a good batting track and he just if he starts going, he's already scored 100 in England, he scored 100 in Australia. So 100 in New Zealand is not impossible for him. And he gets that quick and can give India the advantage. Whereas Saha, it's very interesting to see how Saha will bat, because if he's not contributing at all with the bat, then his position will be in.
And for someone like Kohli, that's a big problem for him. Like, he will definitely, like, if Saha gets out on a duck for playing a silly shot or something, it's definitely going to run in Kohli's mind, because he's that kind of a player. He's not going to take anything less than 100%. Like, and if he feels that Saha is not living up to that standard in the batting, he's definitely going to give Pant a chance.
Yeah.
And Pant is knocking on the door. He's been sitting over there for a while, and I think this break will do him good. I think it's very important. I think he's looking forward to the IPL to really prove a point. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, definitely. And just to wrap it up, I'll give you 3 contests. Tell me what you think, and then I'll ask for your prediction. So first, Kohli versus Bolt. Who will have the upper hand?
Because of the high standards that Kohli has set for us, because of the past 2 years of seeing him score century after century, I just feel like the past couple of innings we haven't really seen him like.
He's lacking form, isn't he? He didn't perform in the limited overs.
Yeah, it just feels like that, because but you have to really say that it's just because of his high standards. Any other player in his situation, we wouldn't be talking like this, but because of the standards that he set, and I think somewhere down the line he's aware of that. So I think he's going to be raring to go, and I think Kohli will win this one.
You heard what Bolt said, right? Just a couple of days back, he said, "I play the game to get people like Kohli out."
Yeah, I read about it. I didn't hear the
Yeah,
video,
so
whatever,
that
but
it'll
at
be
least
interesting because
it,
in those conditions, Bolt is a lethal bowler, so
and
it'll be a good
and
competition.
you have to understand that this guy thrives under pressure.
Yeah,
Like he loves these kind of situations when you say things like this.
yeah.
We've seen it happen before also. People in Australia have done that, and he's gone there and scored centuries against them and stuff like that. So I think Kohli will win this one. I think it's just about time where he kind of like just picks himself up from that kind of a sort of lean patch and just really goes out there and scores like a big one.
Yeah, Bumrah versus Williamson.
This is again like just because of the high standards that he set, to have a wicketless series in the one days was a little hard to see, but this one's a very hard one to
Also,
pick
he's
because
coming back from injury, so I think that one
injury,
day
so a little
series
bit rusty.
it should
Yeah,
have helped him a bit, like
yeah.
get into rhythm. But yeah, let's see how. I'm not
But
sure
I think,
exactly.
but I think this is probably harder for me to predict because Williamson's really out there, and this is home ground for him. Like this is home conditions. This is where he's grown up playing his cricket. So I think maybe Williamson will probably nick this one out. I think Williamson's also out there to score like a big century and really put things into perspective because his captaincy has somewhat been questioned also. So he's under a little bit of pressure also to perform. So he'll have to go out there and at least perform the bat, if not the captaincy. So that's something we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, and lastly, I mean, it's a mix of these two questions. Who do you think is the top? Who will be the top run scorer and the top wicket taker?
This is going to be a hard one. I think my pick is Shami for the bowlers because I just think that he feels so ready to me right now that it's just very very heartwarming to see an Indian player like that. This is like the likes of back in the day, like the Wasim Akrams and the Waqar Yunuses of every time they kind of came in, we knew that they were threatening and they would take a wicket, or like for example the Glenn McGraths and all of the kind. He really feels like that for me, and it's heartwarming to see that. So for me Shami, and then in the batting. I have a personal bias with Williamson, so for me, I'd like to see him do well. But and if you have to, so let's do one Indian and one New Zealander, right?
Yeah.
So I feel like I'd love to see Rahane do well. This again, it's just out of a personal liking for him, and so I'd love to see him score like the highest amount of runs, and then Williamson in the batting side, and then I'd love to see who are the bowlers? Let me see. Maybe Bolt do well and Shami do well on this side.
I was gonna say Wagner, but he's missing the first.
I completely forgot. Yeah, we discussed about it. And it almost came out of my mouth too because he's a nice bowler to watch.
Yeah, I think leading wicket taker will be Shami as well, and batsman Ross Taylor.
Ooh, nice call.
I just feel he's
my
in
personal
form.
bias to Williamson is just
I prefer Williamson as well, but I just feel Ross Taylor is in some
current form,
brilliant form, and I think he's in his last few years. He's still in form, so I think he'll want to go out with I mean, not go out, but I think he'll just want to continue this because it might be his last purple patch. But I just feel he'll be in good, and he can play the spinners well as well. He doesn't have a problem with that. So I just feel Ross Taylor. And lastly, the prediction for the series, 2-match.
1-1.
1-1, huh?
Yeah, I just feel like both games will give us results, but both games will give us different results. That's my personal prediction.
I think 1-0 New Zealand.
It's gonna be hard not to get a result. That's all I feel like.
I mean, India, I think, should win this series, just based on their team, their form, strength, everything, and like especially they have the bowling attack now, which they did on previous tours. But I don't know, that new ball is just freaking me out a bit. And
I agree. I really hope
New Zealand is a tough cookie to beat. I think at home, like away from home, it's different, but at home, I don't see many teams beating them. England got thrashed over there. I think only Australia or India can give them competition, and it won't be easy for either team. But if India need to, prove themselves as number one, they have to win this series without any excuses.
Absolutely. And I really hope that they win the toss and bowl first, India, so that way, like you just settle down into a new series, into a difficult series, and maybe then they can take it from there.
Will Ravi Shastri get sacked if India loses the series?
Absolutely not.
All right, so that's
Ravi Bhai is there for the long run.
So we'll wrap it up for now. We'll come back during the series and discuss what's going on. It's going to be I think it won't be as feisty as an India-Australia series, series, but it'll be very entertaining. I feel like the quality of cricket will be there. There might not be any controversies, but the quality of cricket will really be high, especially because both teams are doing well and the championship is at stake. So it'll be very interesting, and I'll get back to you very soon, and we'll talk to our viewers in the next program. Take care.
Sounds good. Take care.
Have a good night.
You too.